Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Xbox Talks. This is number 40. We've already made it to 40 episodes here. If you guys don't know what Xbox Talks is by now, this is actually a podcast for you guys, the community. We just come up here, talk about some big hitting items for Xbox that came out during the week, and it's a chance for you guys to come up and talk with us. Come join us. If you guys want, hit that little hand raise button down at the bottom. It will notify us you want to come up. If there's any kind of topics you see that we're discussing that you want to jump in on, please feel free. The show is yours as much as it is ours. So to start off again, here we go. We got Moko Worm.
Hey, how you doing?
We have Jay Foreman.
Hey y'all, welcome to me.
And our last but not least, we got Mikey J. Raymond.
Hello, hello.
Awesome, guys. So let's start off how we usually do. What games are you guys playing today? Or this week? What did you play? Hi, Austin17398. Saw your little hand raised there. Yeah, what game are you guys playing?
Who's going? Me? Oh,
Yes.
Whoever wants.
So I'm going for my 500k gamer score. So I've been playing a ton of high gamer score games last month. But I've started Plague Tale Innocence, which is really good. Sorry, Plague Tale Requiem, my mistake, which is awesome. And I'm still plowing on with Assassin's Creed. Just trying to get into some longer games now. That's my thing for this month.
How you liking Plague's Tale?
It's good. It looks great. Plays good. I love the first one though. So the whole vibe of it, the atmosphere, the story. I'm not that far into it, to be honest with you, but it's going to be epic. I know it is. I know Mikey's finished it, and he said it was great. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
Mikey, what are you playing?
Well, first of all, he's too modest. I just want to say that Moko Worm won the gamer score competition last month because we haven't had a chance to even talk about that yet, I don't think. He beat me by 2,000 gamer score, and the final count was something like 38,000 to 36,000.
You guys are just insane.
So this, and it was 20 minutes to go, and he dumped like 4,000 gamer score on me to take the lead. It was insane.
Yeah, it was the only way I could do it though. It was the only way I had to go strategy because Mikey was just trouncing me the whole month. So I was like, I have to hold back.
And like I did it in the morning too, and I thought, oh, maybe he just walked away and he's just gonna take it, like he's not gonna do anything. So I didn't pile more gamer score on, and then you just took it was sneaky and a good move, like well done.
You were out for Halloween with your wife as well, so that was like
right.
It was a bit rubbish, but you know,
it was.
I apologize.
Hats off to you, man.
You got to pull out all those stops when you're having a competition like that. So you guys definitely did that.
Jay, what are you playing this week?
Yeah, I've been on the Overwatch train, Overwatch 2. It's gotten me. I play it daily, complete my quest and my missions. Just trying to get a little better at it. I've discussed it before on here, a little bit of a noob to the series. I understand the characters and the mechanics. I'm just getting to know all the different characters, though. So one of my favorite game modes is where they just keep sending random characters at you, where they select a character. Every time you die, you get a new character. It's really exposed me to a lot of them, so it's been a good way to kind of learn trial by fire, if you will. And that's been the big part of my gameplay. I've also been working through Terraria. I talk about that frequently, and I will get into that a little bit later about an adjustment I made so I can finally be done with this game that I've been playing for way, way, way too long. So that's been my week.
What have you been playing, Cork?
A lot of Overwatch 2 and Persona 5.
Ooh.
Pretty much it's just bouncing back and forth. I played Persona 5 previously. It's such an amazing game. Hands down, one of my top 5. So I'm so glad it's now on Xbox. But yeah, just pretty much that. Trying to finish the Battle Pass on Overwatch 2 and have 2 mains in each class. So I'm on there right now with that. But yeah, just pretty much it. Just kind of just relaxed and kind of just focused on 2 games.
I did want to make one plug for a game quick. And anybody that has PC Game Pass and you love puzzle games, this isn't on Xbox, unfortunately, go out and try Opus Magnum. Which is one of the craziest puzzle games. I don't know if you guys saw, if all of you saw the gifs in Discord
I've
posting.
seen this. Yes, it's
nuts and fun. It's like alchemy based, but with machinery and stuff, turning lead to gold or making some sort of laundry detergent at some points. It's weird. crazy and it's fun and aggravating as heck. If you like puzzle games, go try for it. That's the one game I wanted to plug from what I played.
Absolutely intimidating to me. I looked at the gifs and I was just like, oh wow, what is that? That looks really fun, but also like I'm gonna be throwing various controllers and like it just looks like. But I'm sure there's a great amount of satisfaction once you finally get everything to work just like you're trying to get, and that's the big payoff for puzzle games like that. So very interesting looking game though.
Yes, you did, Mikey. You did that game. Was the one you did the other month with you had to get the engineering manual to work your way through it. The IO game.
So that was by the same guy.
That
was the same guy. Yeah, he makes these horrible puzzle games. That one was way harder to learn, in my opinion, because you actually had to do real programming. It was kind of like abstract assembly language programming. This one is much more straightforward and more of like a physics puzzle game.
Right.
But so far, I'm almost done with it, but it's 28 hours later, so take that as you will. It's taken a while.
Okay, how's Overwatch holding up after 3-4 weeks?
Overwatch is actually doing really, really well. It's still insanely fun. Lobbies are still pretty healthy. I bounce between PC and consoles, so playing on both, it's been absolutely amazing. I haven't really seen a lot of cheaters or anything. Surprisingly, everything seems pretty fair. If I die, I'm like, oh yeah, that's on me. I rushed the point, But overall, still very healthy. Does need to be some nerfs. There's a couple of characters I think that could do it, but we'll see what happens. I don't think they've announced nerfs yet. I think that comes with season 2. We talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, that they're going to wait till season 2 to make changes. But so far, besides a couple of characters, I think the balance is pretty well.
I'm having a good time. Like I said, as somebody who doesn't have the skill set of playing the sequel and on end, I should say, and I haven't had experience, I'm still able to get in there and I feel like contribute good heal numbers or damage or holding objectives. Sometimes it doesn't always show in the stats. So it's a fun game. It really the hero shooter thing, it always has a good hook for me because you kind of get bored of it if you switch to a different character. It's almost like it can be a completely different game. All of a sudden you're doing something totally wild and you were just shooting, but now I'm a big gorilla dropping shields for everyone, and you know how it goes in there. It's so much fun, man. So it's I actually Overwatch 2 just took a lot of grief when it came out, and I was really worried about it even before it launched. People didn't like the direction it was going for a lot of things, and I think it's kind of winning people over. Maybe at least it's going to have a steady player base still going forward. So all those alarmists are probably chilling out just a little bit.
Yeah, I do want to say, Mr. Schlenky, in the comments, how are you guys liking the 5v5? I love it. I think it really changes the atmosphere of the game, makes combat a little bit more tighter, more fast paced, because there's just there's a lot there with such a short kind of group, and it kind of forces people to kind of bunch up and really work together a lot more. So you're seeing some crazy interactions happening. So I love the new 5v5.
I feel, like I said, I don't have the prior experience with the old one, but it does feel like a lot of the firefights are open. It doesn't really feel too cluttered a lot of the time. Now, of course, a big point of the game is to stay in a group and win the wars with numbers and that kind of thing. But even in a group fight, when it's like 4-on-4 or something, like I feel like I'm not drowning in effects and just completely spinning around and losing where I am. Like I always feel like I have a vision or I can see what's going on, and I feel like I can make adjustments and play the game that way. So it's a good feel.
Yeah, let's hear from some of our users here. So we did post something earlier in the week. I don't know if you guys saw it. We want to hear about your guys' favorite indie games. If any of you guys want to come up, I'm going to read some of the submissions that we've gotten so far. But anybody else that wants to come up and talk with us and kind of explain what your favorite indie game is, please hit that hand like down button at the bottom. If you guys are low karma users, we tend to steer away from that just because it's kind of a mixed bag. We'd like to have you have a little bit more karma with the community, just for the sake of safety for the users listening in. So with that said, let's hit some comments right here. Is there anything indie games? I know Foreman has a lot. It seems to be up his forte for indie games of like Slam Rancher, Terranea, and stuff like that. Are there any indie games that you like, Jay?
I mean, I could go on forever and ever, and I'll probably wait toward the end of the show and maybe weigh in with some of my favorites because I want to see if maybe some users that come up and might hit on some of my favorites. I do want to say the reason I love the subject so much is that games are different things to different people. So your AAA games are, people get impacted by the story and they want good graphics and that kind of stuff, and I totally understand it, but I gravitate more toward these games because I'm a mechanics guy. If you have a game that has really great mechanics, Slay the Spire is a really good example in my book where it's the simplest, ugliest looking game. If you saw it, you want to be interested in it, but once you play it, you understand that it is so perfectly crafted. That's a big part of gaming to me is these games that have these great hooks and these great concepts and great core mechanics. And I think the place where you find that being explored and people get a little more adventurous with it is in the indie scene. So I'm really excited to hear what some people's favorite indie games of all time are on Xbox. So yeah, come on up here. We might even have some codes if you're brave. We want to hear what you guys out there. What's your favorite indie game of all time on Xbox? Because there's a lot to choose from.
Oh yeah, there's a ton. Mikey, you guys, how about we give ours a little bit, and then I know Jay gave one. What's one of yours?
So I'm going to say 2, technically 3. So I brought up Opus Magnum, and he also made Shenzhen IO. And they're indie games, and they're my favorite puzzle games so far of all time, except for Portal 2, which is not technically an indie game. So I'm not going to call that an indie. My other one, if people allow it, because even though they have a publisher, I think their publisher was Curve Games, and I just looked it up, was Lawn Mowing Simulator.
Oh yeah, no, that's a solid game.
Which I had over 3 days in, so...
And you bring up a really good point here, and something that we should probably discuss is what qualifies an indie game, right? Usually, I think the hardcore or the hardline definition of it would be a game that doesn't have a publisher, right? It's right. Independently, you make it and you put it out there yourself. And when you get into a lot of these games, Humble Bundle is a publisher, and what they do is they grab indie games and they publish them. Is it no longer an indie game? So I think we're going to be a little flexible with the definition tonight. People kind of have a general conception of what an indie developer is, so we're not going to cut you off if you come up here and say something that isn't technically an indie developer or anything like that.
I think the definition lately has kind of changed to a smaller studio with a smaller budget. So even though they have a publisher, if they're still on that small budget, small studio feel, it's still an indie game to many.
Sure. Or a lot of these games are cooked up by 1 or 2 people, and as the development increases, of course, more and more people get brought in. But if the core is created by just a small team or just one person, that really goes a long way in making it an indie game to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that's not on being commercially advertised, on the scale of God of War, Red Dead, you see a lot of these games that are just coming out and they're getting a lot of mainstream. You're seeing it posted everywhere on Twitter. They're getting their little Twitter hashtag icons, when you type it in, use hashtag, Overwatch and see Overwatch 2 symbol next to it, things like that. I mean, if they're not breaking the bank and you're not seeing a widespread, I would say that's pretty indie. What about you, Moko? What's list one of your favorite indie games?
I don't even know if they're like you said the definition, but things like Death's Door, Hades, all these sort of
I think those are what we think of. Yeah.
Tunic is the one that I'm working through at the moment. Tunic,
absolutely.
I just love that vibe. I like that sort of just that whole artistic vibe. But when I first started modding on the sub, I organised an AMA from a really young kid. I think he was only 16, 17, and he had Omno. There's a game called Omno. I don't know if you heard of it. And then not long after we did the AMA, it came out and he got it onto Game Pass, and that was a really cool little game, which was fun to play. But I'm not really a massive indie game player like Jay is. But so the ones that I know are all these ones that I pick up through Game Pass, which I would never have bought. I would never have played except for Game Pass.
Nice. Yes, some of mine is Moonglow Bay, absolutely amazing. By Bunny Hug, super indie. If you guys didn't know, I think it's only 10 developers, 12 developers from I believe Spain. Super great title. It was on Game Pass. I'm not sure if it still is, but if it is, go check it out.
Promise Human, welcome up here, and you can unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
My personal favorite indie game has to be Battletoads. I mean, it's super unknown. It's very fun.
No,
I don't know if
Battletoads
it's
is
unknown. It's kind of been memed into everyone being reminded of its existence about 5-6 years ago.
But
Yeah.
it's kind of a funny question. I mean, I feel like all NES games, if you want to go back to the original Battletoads, I think they were all like
Xbox
indie
Series
games
is
because they
pretty
all
unknown.
had like 2 developers on them. I mean, I ran into the guys that created Wizards and Warriors right here on Reddit, and the guy was just like, "Oh, it was me." One guy made the music, and then like my stepbrother like helped out with some of the stuff in the end. I'm like, that game was such a big part of my childhood, and he's like he seemed like amazed that like I even remembered what the game was and stuff. But I think Battletoads is obviously published by Rare now and doesn't qualify maybe as an indie game and owned by Microsoft and all that. But
The new one doesn't.
yes, but
Yeah, I guess. Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's owned by Rare, but there wasn't a huge push for marketing. If I don't, I don't remember.
it was a weird spot. Like a lot of people were excited about it based on the nostalgia.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's in that gray area because I think it more depends. They didn't really have a huge backing for it, did they? Like a huge budget for it. I mean, I never really saw it promoted. All
No,
that
and
much.
I know a lot of games back in the day were made by on contract basis. I know the game, like the ET game, the worst game of all time, was made by a single guy, and
Yeah.
he just had barely any time to get it out before the movie or after the movie or something.
Yeah.
And he was rushed through it.
Well-
So it was one guy, but it was contracted by the studio.
Mhm.
So like, is that an indie game if the movie developers are asking for it, or was everything back then an indie game? What counts? So I'll say Battletoads back in the day counted.
OG
Yeah, that's
Battletoads
fair.
counts.
The game that I just mentioned, Omno, that again, that's one that lad just made it on his own.
Yeah.
Much respect for that. And we had the other AMA by the guy who did the spin-off of the Skyrim mod, which is now on Game Pass as well. The Australian
Yeah, the Forgotten
developer.
City, is that correct?
Forgotten City. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did that. Well, from my memory, that was a lone project again.
Well,
He just
it
did
was.
on
It
his
started as a mod, which is a lot of our favorite games have. We've talked about that numerous times on this show, and he created something that people really love. Now, I did not play that, but word of mouth buzz is anybody that has played it, they rave about it. So, not your typical game, but really deep character development, that kind of stuff, which is good because I like that's one of the strengths of indie games is they explore different avenues that we might not see from mainstream gaming. So,
Awesome, guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
so I was just gonna say, you guys. Or so go ahead if you guys want to continue the topic real
I was
quick.
just going to say, do you think a lot of the indie games like that there's real standout games? Looking at sort of for me like Super Meat Boy, Limbo, like these amazing art style games. They're
Well-
like the standout games of the console for me, from like from 360 to Xbox One. They're just you can tell that so much love is put into them. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a one or a small development team, and that's their passion. We talked about this with the other week. I can't remember what game we're talking about, but you can tell, like with No Man's Sky, I think it was. We're talking about a small studio, just pumping sort of so much devotion into one game, and it shows. It shows.
Well, and
Yeah.
some of these ideas hit, and they're the biggest games that we know in the last 10, 20 years. Minecraft, obviously, is very famously started by a single dude. Stardew
We won't
Valley.
talk about that
No,
guy.
we're not gonna go into the whole history of that and what
Talk
it
about
became.
burning your bridges, man.
Yeah, that guy. Anyways, look it up on the internet if you're not familiar. I'm sure most of our listeners are. Stardew Valley is another great example. A really good core concept that a person was very passionate about, and I think. There is this thing called I read an article and it made good sense. It's called the myth of the solo developer, and these games start with one person, but obviously as they get bigger and bigger, the whole teams come in. There's quality testing and all the normal stuff that you would see from larger releases, but it really is just a good idea, a lot of passion, and that's how we get to where we are. So yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so Metal Hellsinger, which came out not too long ago. Would you guys think that's an indie game or not? Just without googling it, what do you think?
Indie.
I would think the other way. No.
I
No,
mean, I
so-
feel like
Again.
it's indie developed, but I mean, the thing that kind of strays me away from that is the music. I know the soundtrack is with a lot of well-known people, so it that has to be licensed and stuff, and then it starts to get kind of complicated.
So my point with that is kind of what I think indie games have done is they've changed the industry as a whole. Like you look at the actual publisher behind that is Funcom, who made Conan Exiles. So they're not really, much of an indie studio, but they have a lot of smaller teams which create indie-like experiences. And I see a lot of studios doing that nowadays, even bigger studios handing out, giving these small teams something to go with. Like Grounded, I think it started with 10 people by Obsidian. And
Yeah,
that's definitely not an indie, but that's, a small team created this massive, huge thing. And they're just, it's allowed bigger studios to throw 10 people at a project, experiment, and see what comes out of it. So indie games as a whole, I think, have changed the industry. That's all I was saying. Like even big companies are doing quote unquote indie games nowadays.
sure. And a lot of these big companies started as indies. If you want to go back to the core of Blizzard way back in the day and stuff like that, it's just a couple guys in college, and they had, like we said, passion and an idea, and that will get you a long way. So my number one indie game of all time is Terraria, and I don't need to. Like that's going to be no surprise to anyone. I will say, just last week, the first game to ever go over 1 million positive reviews on Steam is Terraria. One of the reasons I love it is because the development of it, they don't do DLCs. They've never asked for money for any additional content. It's always been the base price of the game. It's everything that gamers say they love in a business model, and it works because they just keep selling the base. People keep buying the game over and over on different platforms. It's been steady content for 10 years, and there's over 5,000 items. It's so many games. It's a great open sandbox game. So if maybe not the greatest indie game of all time, to me, definitely the greatest sandbox game. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So you guys heard from us what our favorite indie games is. We'll give you guys a little bit of, and during the show, we'll come back, revisit. We'll read some of your comments if you guys want. Hit the little comment button. It says open comments. It looks like a little chat bubble. That will take you straight to the thread here, which we are monitoring. Post some stuff there. Talk to us. We'll read your comments out loud later on in the show. But yeah, let's hit some news topics. Let's hit a spicy one right away. Xbox sells consoles at a loss. I mean, I know this is kind of like a big topic, but it's been discussed before, but it just seems, I guess, we never really got the number for the Xbox Series X, which is shocking. I think he said, what, $200?
Yeah, so I think maybe the big bullet point out of this was the S is losing more money than the X. Maybe it shouldn't be, because the X is obviously selling for quite a bit more. But you look at the tech in there, and we weren't really sure. So now we kind of have more clarity on what's happening there. And yeah, this isn't news. We always suspected and knew this, and this has happened in generations past as well. The only people that seem to know how to make hardware that they can sell for a profit is Nintendo, and that's because they don't push the bleeding edge of tech. They always go for older tech that's a little bit cheaper to mass produce, and they love that money and they know how to make it. So Xbox is taking a different approach, and Sony is raising their prices, and Xbox might be following suit, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, wild story, huh?
And yeah, well, I mean, Sarah Bond, I believe it was her. She came out, what was it, sometime last year or earlier in the year, and they even said, yeah, we haven't made a profit on Xbox consoles because, I mean, it's just they're pretty, high quality. They take a lot to produce, and I don't think it was until the end of the generation that the Xbox One started to slowly take off. That's when Game Pass came along, but people started to kind of buy into that ecosystem. So this isn't too crazy. It's not something new per se, like you said. What do you guys think about it? Moko, Mikey?
I'm trying not to be super negative. I think it shows Sony is kind of being a little greedy, because back in 2021, there was a report that came out that showed that their physical edition of the PS5 was making $50 per console. And sales have actually, and I looked into Tech Radar did an article on this once. If people want to Google that. They actually had some evidence to show that, the mass number of sales between their physical and their digital console, it was mostly physical. That's the one they're making. That's the one they're distributing, because that's the one that was making the money. That was back in 2021. So as prices, continue to lower across the industry, and I know inflation's up, but like PC parts, components, and hardware is actually going down. Costs are going down. Going into 2022, and they raise the price. So it's like, now how much money they're making, all while Xbox is losing still $100 to $200 per console. It's like there's one good guy in that scenario for me.
Yeah.
So when you bring that up, that was immediately my thought. It's like two different mindsets, and I know you're talking about a company with $1 trillion market cap versus a few $100 billion, but they're still big companies, and it's hard to side with Sony having to raise prices on that while Xbox is still losing that much money on console.
So, do you think Sony are losing money on consoles at all?
I don't think they've come out with those numbers yet, have they?
No,
Because
we
it's
don't
done.
know, and the world markets are really kind of crazy right now, which is why we're maybe seeing some of these price increases. There's a rumored price increase for Xbox in India. India's inflation last month in 1 month was 7% on their
Wow.
average cost of living, and this is happening all over the world. So, Xbox might have to follow suit, but they don't have to. Obviously, they're already losing money. Is it worth it to them to maybe get the bad press to make a few more dollars per console? Well, that's a decision that I am definitely not wise enough to make, but it's up to them to make the decision there. So, yeah, it's just it's really messy out there right now.
Yeah, and I mean, with I don't know, it's because they haven't really released it, but Sony did make the digital version. They have I guess the light version of the PlayStation 5 where it's all digital. Supposedly they were taking a really big hit on that one. So I wonder how much of that console plays into if they're taking a loss or not right now. Because
Yeah.
when they first came out, there were tons of rumors that there was like one available when they had, the physical disc edition, like 10, 20, but then they would only like release one or two in the stores physically. So I wonder how much that is eating away at their profits right now, just because they wanted to compete with the Series S.
We got Mika the Great on stage
And that's
with
why
us.
I brought up that tech radar. Like it seemed like the majority to them that they could see were physical because they were watching each drop at like Walmart and Target and stuff, and they could see X number of units were released for the physical edition, while
Yeah.
so many fewer were released for the digital. So while they were making $50 on the physical, if you cut that in half, were they losing $50 on the digital, or maybe a little less because there's less hardware involved? While also making that the console they sold less of. So to me, at the time, at least in 2021, unless prices went crazy and while still raising the price of the console by $50, I think they were making a profit overall.
Nice. Micah, the
Given that,
great 21. How are you
Yeah,
doing
if I
today?
could just chime in real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So, thanks. So in as of May of this year, they sold in the fiscal year 20 million units and had a profit of 3.2. So yeah,
3.2 million.
billion, sir.
Oh, Bill. Oh, man. That's insane. Now you're talking about Sony, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
And I actually was looking at it the other day, and there's links you can Google it. So
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, that's good information to have. Thank you for that. What do you think about this kind of price strategy going on right now? Do you think it's fair for Sony to raise the price? Do you think, yeah, what do you think about it all overall?
yeah, that's a great question. So, basically, the precious metals in Africa
Mhm.
are owned by probably 3 or 4 mining companies, and out of I think 1 out of the 4 is not owned by China. So I think there's like a hold on, sorry, I gotta mute this TV. I'm sorry if you're hearing it.
No, no
Um,
problem.
so I think China's got a stranglehold hold on the precious metals that for all the all the processors and all that stuff. So I think the price increase, to answer your question, I think the price increase is just kind of per market, and I mean we see it everywhere else. I bought a phone 2 months ago from Samsung, and it was $1,300, and that's kind of telltale signs of everything's to come. So
Yeah, it's all getting more expensive out there, and there's lots of factors, including some that maybe you brought up there. So there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, because I didn't even think about the precious metals. That's actually a really, really good point. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going
yeah,
on right now.
exactly, and you can look it up. I don't want to say 3 out of 4, but let's I know for sure in my mind that it's the majority of mines in Central Africa which has the most precious metals. I think the Republic of Congo has the most in the entire world. So most of the mines there, the majority, are owned by the Chinese. So say what you may.
Okay. Mikey, what do you think? You're kind of like our little our industry analyst, I would say. Is that something you kind of considered? Was kind of the cost of precious metals when Sony's raising prices and stuff? I know you've been a little harsh on them, but is that something that maybe you didn't factor in?
You know, sorry,
to kind of put you on the spot.
It's something I don't know a ton about, so it's something I'm gonna
Okay.
have to Google on that. And I basically look at PC component prices,
Mhm.
and I see those lowering around the industry, which use the same precious metals inside of them. So
Okay.
to see those go down, and the same consoles that have been out now for almost 2 years go up, while the other components that have been out for longer or the same amount of time are going down, I begin to question that.
Okay. No, that's
Such
100% fair.
such as the 3000 series for cards. They were going down throughout the year of 2022, and especially now that the 4000 series is out, and the manufacturing of those didn't change, and
True.
those prices went down. The Series X and I know the PS5 go through revisions. So my thing would be that maybe PS5 has made a revision, a better version of their console with better cooling that is just pricier to make. That's their out that I'll give them. I'm not sure if I'm convinced on the precious metal market yet. It's something I'll have to do more research on before I
there's
just buy into it.
I think
Okay.
it's one part of like the bigger equation, and it's obviously a factor, but so is shipping right now. So is inflation, as we just discussed about.
absolutely.
So is every
Absolutely.
other part of the manufacturing process. So when we give Sony a hard time about raising prices, it's kind of like we were discussing with Microsoft here. It's not that they don't have justification to do it, because I can go to the grocery store and tell you that, the gallon of milk that used to cost me $2 costs me almost $5 now. It's the same everywhere, and it's not just the U.S. It's a global thing. Everything is inflation's a big deal out there right now. So, yeah, the justification's there. It just depends on if they want to
going to say
continue.
something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say something maybe really dumb now, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yes.
So you've got the PS5 and the Series X, and the comparable consoles going for comparably the same price up until a few weeks ago. But Microsoft is losing $200 on it, and Sony's breaking even or profiting. What's the difference? I don't understand what Microsoft are doing wrong in that situation to be losing $200.
Sure. So,
Whereas,
is the Xbox more expensive to produce than the PlayStation? Is the Series S cost more than the gap in the price between the Series S and the Series X?
Yeah.
Maybe the Series S should be selling for $100 less. It should be at the $400 price mark. There's a lot of factors that go into that too. And that's not really stupid. I mean, that's the question we're all asking is.
Well, you also got to remember that Xbox did pay for higher priority on the chipset. So that could also be factoring in if they dropped, a few millions to get that higher priority. That's probably eating away at their cost as well.
Right. And we're all out here on the outside just throwing
Ooh,
darts at
that's
the wall.
interesting. I didn't know that either. Oh, wow.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
true, yeah.
Early on, that was a big story and a kind of a sore point for even Sony users sometimes, or Sony themselves. It's like, hey, that's not fair, but Microsoft likes to throw their money around sometimes. So that was the story there for a bit. So thanks for coming up. I think yeah, that's a really good point when we have this discussion. So you're a really good guest. Thanks, Mika.
No problem.
All right, you have a good night.
And as he leaves, I will next week I'll come back to you. I already know now that the precious metals inside computers, the components are gold, silver, platinum, and palladium.
So you're going to go away
So
and
I'm
read
going to
a
go do some.
thesis
I'm
on
going to go do some market analysis.
Palladium.
All right.
I'll try to not look at who owns them necessarily. Just look at the market price.
I mean, when the metals start becoming things that I only really see in video games, I know they're precious. I'm just like, what?
We need a
Wait, yeah,
1,000-word essay on our desk by next week, Mikey.
Got it.
Yeah, we want to know all about it. So
There was one time my boss said that I could write a report on watching paint dry, so I did it.
How many words did it come out to? Do you remember?
Like 600.
For watching paint dry?
if you didn't get an A on that, I would be sorely disappointed. You were challenged.
I
And
have
you met.
He
I
was
have
kind
no
of mad
idea.
that I used company time to do that, which I don't blame him.
That was my point. I was going to say, what the hell are you doing at work?
That is amazing. I
So
hope
I
he gave
will
you a
say
pay
one
raise.
thing. I've looked up one metal so far, in platinum that is, and in 2021 it was actually its highest peak in 5 years, and is now lower in 2022.
And when we get into this, it becomes a commodity thing, and you get into investments when the cash or the dollars get get a little lower. The people invest in silver and gold and precious metals, and so many factors here that I am definitely not smart enough to understand. But like I said, I think the one thing we can all agree is that things are getting more expensive. If you think that's justification for raising console prices, well, I guess that's up to you to decide, and
Well, you
as it is
also-
for all of us.
Yeah, well, you remember they didn't raise it in all. This is where it kind of also gets suspect too, where I don't blame Mikey for having his doubts. I'm in the same boat as him, and I agree with him 100%. But they only raised it in certain markets. They didn't want to touch United States, where I think the neck and neck for Xbox sales versus PlayStation are a little bit closer compared to the rest of the world.
And
I mean, Sony is always. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we're still seeing inflation here too. So I'm just kind of trying to reinforce your point there that
Sony's always had a lead in outside the United States, and Xbox has pretty much always been pretty solid in the United States. So, I mean, that's also something to kind of consider too, is, how much of this is kind of BS like Mikey thinks.
Well, like I said, here in the UK, Xbox has always been strong, really strong. But some of the deals, like the Christmas deals now that I'm seeing, to get, for the Christmas season, are insane. Like the prices are great, the bundles are great, like 249 with like FIFA and the Series S, and it does seem cheap. Really, it does seem really well priced. But I know it's competitive. I know it's Christmas. I know that. But still, I expected it to be higher, especially with what you said about the inflation and the interest rates and everything that's going on.
And watch out for these holiday deals that are coming up. We got news this week on the subreddit that at Costco in the U.S. anyway, online, they're going to have Series S's for $239, which is practically giving the darn things away. If you ask me, you can play next gen games at 1080 for $240, which is cheaper than I think I played for the PlayStation 2 for sure, and all this old hardware over the years. So it's a really strong approach by Microsoft. I know we have people out there still pushing the narrative that the S is bottlenecking this generation. I think that's almost been debunked at this point, just based on the sources for those rumors. But it's just showing that the S is a successful strategy for Xbox. And by the time this generation is done, I think there's going to be a big part of the story is what happens with the S moving forward.
Also, small little update. I looked into the price of all those.
Yes.
On average, platinum, palladium, and silver are all lower this year than they were last year.
Sell. Just kidding.
With gold being a small exception, it spiked much higher than it did previously last year in March and May, but its current price is lower than any price it was in 2021. That's my quick market analysis. Sony, screw you.
We don't like your price hikes. Let's put it that way. Just eat it, and you're going to make that money back when people are buying games and subscriptions and all that stuff anyway, which is kind of Microsoft's game plan, which hopefully it seems to be working for them. We'll see. Game Pass seems to be making a lot of money, as do other parts of the Xbox ecosystem there. Welcome to the stage, Punch Cake.
Or is it punch cakey with that, or is it just punch cake?
Well, a punch cake is a thing actually, and it's where you take a cake and you pop holes in it, and then you dump like Kool-Aid into it or something. Maybe I'm out of my mind here, but anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the Xbox. I'm sucking on my dick. I got lotion on my dick, bro.
Wow, and there you go.
Hey, there we go. A 40-year-old man trying to troll Reddit talks. Guys are a winner.
Again, so we had a troll like a couple months ago. I'm just gonna say this: if you're gonna come up and troll, like speak, enunciate, because I have no idea what you said.
I was gonna say I don't know what he said, but
you mumbled. You talked into like a iPhone 4.
I think maybe he got nervous. Like it's the big moment to shine, and all of a sudden you just run out of gas. So I wanted to kind of go back to the indie conversation, and we had some good user comments, and this one comes from Fan Division, who chimed in on the post here, and their choice for the best indie game of all time was Spelunky 2. Have you guys played either of the Spelunky games? They're really kind of well loved.
I have not.
No,
I have never played one. No,
I've played some, and I'm surprised it's Spelunky over Terraria or Stardew Valley.
Okay.
Just because I feel like those had bigger, a bigger splash in the market than Spelunky did.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No. People like this. Spelunky 2 is very well reviewed. First of all, I mean it's a really solid game. It's a little less in depth about customization and base building and sandboxy, and it's more just about Just the straight mining aspect of it and getting deeper and deeper, almost kind of like a little bit of like a roguelike mechanic. But they go on to say that they first got into the franchise back when it was just a freeware game. They bought the high definition version of the game and spent quite a few hours on both versions. So when the second game came out to Xbox, it was a day one purchase. It's everything they wanted from the sequel. Sure, it's hard, but Spelunky with cool new areas, enemies, items, and pretty cool secrets. This game certainly grabbed my attention more than most AAA games. Even more than Hades, in fact. I wouldn't be surprised if I played this more than double the time I spent on Hades, which after a while felt too samey and like it needed more enemies and areas, in a way I never felt with Spelunky 2. So there's Fan Division's endorsement for their favorite indie of all time, and it's definitely been a game I've almost wanted to check out a bunch of times and just never made it to it. So good pick though.
One small indie fact, because you brought up Terraria being 1 million positive reviews, so I looked this up. The top 7 games all time for positive reviews are all indie games on Steam.
Yeah, can you run it down? Do you have the list?
So number 10, Don't Starve Together. Number 9, Valheim. 8, The Forest. 7, Phasmophobia. 6, Stardew Valley. Euro Truck Driver. Number 2, Gary's Mod. That one's a little iffy. I'll throw that in there, but technically it's a mod based on a Valve game, but way more played than the actual Valve game was.
True.
And number 1 is Terraria.
Yeah, and some of those, the Terraria's been out forever, so it's kind of like a tilted scale if you want to think about that. They did just celebrate their 10th anniversary, but it's beloved for sure. So let's move on to some different news. Kevin, kind of steering the ship tonight. Where are we going?
Yeah. I don't know. Let me see here. What do we got? Yeah, because I don't want to hit all the big topics yet. I mean, we still have the Phil Spencer talking about COD. Let's hold on to that in our back pocket.
I like the patience.
Yeah. Let's see right now. We did get news about Atomic Heart releasing on February 21st.
In my mind, that's what I wanted you to pick next. I was going to say, how freaking awesome does that game look?
Wow.
Dude, amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was like so glorious. I mean, and it's so soon. I mean, yeah, it's like 2 or 3 months, but I mean, it looked very well polished.
It looks like you're playing a trailer, man. It looks like you're playing in a cinematic. It just looks so good. I just don't get it. It's like a new benchmark for me almost.
Now, how do you guys think that will play on the Series S? Because it's next gen only, right? That's gonna be one of the first titles to be next gen only.
First of all, this is a game that people can tell you about it all they want, but Mikey's right. Once you see it, you're just like, oh, drool starts coming out of your mouth. And I'm looking at it right now, and if you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it too. It looks incredible. Series S. What are our expectations for the Series S? First of all, 1080p. I feel like that's fair. 30 to 60 frames. But,
I say 60 at 1080p. I think that game. We've already seen it push that limit with other games. So I would say that I think the standard would be 1080p, 60 frames per second. I think that's
the expectations. Minimum. I think if we get some really complex games, I could see 30 frames at 1080, and that's not going to make anybody real happy. But the Series S is going to be able to run presumably almost any game at that setting, at those specs, kind of. So I still not buying this whole thing about bottlenecking things. You just gotta tame your games down to make it work on there. So this is a really pretty looking game, lots of reflection, very smooth in the video we've seen. So it will be interesting to see what happens with it, and if we're gonna still have more of the Series S controversy.
I think a lot of the bottlenecking, if you look at Gotham Knights, what I found is it's a CPU bottleneck, and not because the CPU is weak, but because of how terribly the developer coded everything almost on a single thread.
Yeah.
Which, if people know anything about CPU, you want a multi-thread.
Well, unless
your app.
It's not 2005, so yeah.
So a lot of it supposedly is on a single thread, which is why it was limited to a single 30 FPS. So I see, and I agree with Cork. I see Atomic Heart coming out at 1080p 60 on the Series S, and I think for Series X we'll see a 4K 30 with the 1440 60 is my guess.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Or maybe
down to the
unlocked.
1440 on the 60. I think
maybe it's like an 1800.
Well, I'm hoping
Do you
what
think
happens
Gotham
here.
Knights is getting a bad rap? Sorry. jumping in too early.
Did you say
just to
Gotham
think
Knights?
Yeah, have any of you played that? Do you think it's getting a bad rap? I know you just mentioned that on the last talk was when it got released and we had all the reviews and that, but all the people in the sub who were commenting on it who played it saying they're having a great time with the game.
Well, I think a lot of the people that, and this is, it's a bit of a bias, because if you go on buying the games, even against everything, like if you go watch a Digital Foundry video on the analysis of Gotham Knights, and you go, that's still fine by me, that's up to you. But to me, when you watch it and you compare it against Arkham City looked better than Gotham Knight did. Like even down to the moon looked worse in Gotham Knights. So if you still buy it, you're going in knowing what it is, and I think you're going to have a good time with it. If it's something that you can't get past, though, seeing everything that it doesn't have to offer compared to the previous games, you're not going to like it. So the people that are buying it know those things, and of course they're going to like it because they can get over that fact, and that's good for them. For me, I didn't want to do that.
Well, a fair bit of controversy around the release. I think a lot of the critics never touched the game. Honestly, I think they saw 30 frames per second. Blah, you can't do that. How come you can? You suck. That's all. You know how people get. And they get very passionate about this stuff. And so I think there's a little bit of both ways. You have your buyers kind of sway a little bias because you paid for the game, like you were saying, and you want it to be a good experience. You know what you're getting. But then you have some people on the other side that maybe came down on it a little bit too hard and just kind of bemoaning that the game can't hit 60 frames per second this generation, which I think is a realistic expectation. But it's a really bad place. That game really stirred up all kinds of controversy, and the S took most of the shrapnel from that release. I think it really hit the S hard because we had developers coming out at that same time from I Am Brad.
If Atomic Heart comes out, if it looks phenomenal. Like if they can do a 60 FPS 1080p on S, then that justifies that takes away some of that criticism for me, what was given to it a couple of weeks ago.
I think the damning thing for me was that Suicide Squad, which is actually made by Rocksteady. Remember, Gotham Knights was not made by Rocksteady.
Yeah,
is going to be 60 FPS. They've said. So when you have a game in the same universe made by it's going to be similar open world co-op. And that's 60 frames per second, and your other one isn't. I don't know what to say anymore. That's your comparison right there. And if that comes out as 60 FPS, why didn't Gotham Knights?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just like you said, it's that CPU bottlenecking to just one thread. I mean, we get like 8 cores now. There's no reason for it, and I think it's just bad development. And I mean, I'd hate to do that because I know the developers do work hard on this, but at some point, I think there comes a technical limit on their abilities. And I think that's just what I mean. I've heard though the game is fun. I've heard a lot of people say they like it. It's fun. I can't wait to play it, but I am going to wait until they flesh things out. We start to see something probably next year. Once we see it kind of drop down to like 30, I could see them doing a next gen update because it's already next gen only. I think they dropped the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 because it was having so many issues. So I'm going to wait on it, but I mean, I've heard it's fun. I think Moko has a point. I think if you like Batman, you're more than likely going to like this game, and you like the style of Arkham Knights with a little bit of RPG aspect in it. I think you're going to have fun, but I'll wait to see when I play it next year.
I urge anybody to go watch the Digital Foundry video on it.
Yeah,
I've watched
it.
See the comparison to Arkham Knight. That's the developer, by the way. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was like, do you think that's a fair comparison, though? I mean, here you have Rocksteady, which has just had amazing games. It's a more well-seasoned developer. I think they've definitely have a better tool set or probably skill level, I think, than Warner Brothers Interactive entertainment developers. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's kind of fair that Gotham Knights got compared to Arkham Knights, even though they're different developer?
Well, they made a title in the past that I thought was better than this one as well. They made Arkham Origins.
I never played that one. Is it good? Well, I guess you said better.
It was. I think it was actually one of the lower rated ones out of the 3, or out of the 4, with Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham. It's too much. Arkham Knight. There we go.
Arkham Knight.
Okay. Sorry, and I was saying Arkham City, I think, before Arkham Knight, but they made Arkham Origins, and that was basically their only other game. I think they made I'm looking it up right now. Arkham City Armored Edition. So they did work on the Arkham City engine. But
Okay.
they are just, you're right, they don't have a lot of history and development. Their gap was, they made Arkham Origins in 2013, and then 9 years later they came out with Gotham Knights. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like Kes said before. Like at some point, bad decisions are made in the development process of these particular games, and they just don't recover, do they, for release? They're down that path for too long. They've got pressures on a release date, and it's locked in. I'm sure that when the developers, they must know the performance of the game. They're not more than anyone. It's
Well,
not
I
up to
mean,
par.
that sometimes I think in this case they said it was a design decision. It's just I think that probably that seemed kind of disingenuous to people. So I think that kind of gamers will smell baloney if you were trying to shovel it out there, and it could have very well been a design. It kind of seemed to be a little bit of both. It was a design decision because they couldn't get it to go any better the way they wanted to. So it was a design decision by necessity, perhaps. So it's a weird place.
And we could go down a rabbit hole how much Warner Brothers is notorious for just misstepping with the DC universe. How much did their parent company have involved in this? You can't do this, but you can do this. How much of a heavy hand they played into it. So I mean, we could have theorize and stuff like that. I mean, this could have been a WB decision on a higher level. And just with them, I mean, they obviously don't understand a lot of the DC source material, because look at the movies. That's a different topic. But
wait, you mean Batman's not supposed to kill people? Sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like they've really just kind of bungled the DC universe. So, I mean, is it too far-fetched to think that they kind of got their hands dirty, got their hands into this a little bit too much? I mean, look at the Rocksteady CEOs. They're leaving. What's the reason behind that? Could it be because of WB? Who knows? There's so many different avenues, but that's also something to think about.
But multiverse is just fine, thankfully.
Looping it back to the original story, then, the Atomic Heart. Who is the developer of Atomic Heart, and do you have faith that it will be as good as we expect it to be? Mikey.
He's looking. It's hard to. I think expectations are really high based on the visuals of this game, so they've set a really, really high bar. So if you want to argue if that's fair or not,
what have they done before? What has this developer done before? It's not on my radar. This game. It wasn't until just now.
It's Mundfish. I'm not exactly sure what they've done before. It looks like they're also self-publishing.
I mean,
so
this is their first game.
How can the first game look so incredible, look so phenomenal? It's just, like you said, it's like watching, like you're just playing that CGI movie.
So here's the deal: if Atomic Heart came out at 30 FPS, I would give them a bigger pass than somebody who has the publishing of Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
fair.
That's my thing. If you're an indie studio, I can get where you might have hiccups. If you're a multi-billion-dollar funded studio or a publisher making a Batman game, and it comes out looking again worse than Arkham Knight, not to make that comparison for a 17th time, shame on you. And I'm sorry for being so negative, but maybe Rocksteady should stick to their games.
This might be their first game, but I bet if you look at the actual developers' names and go back and see what, I bet they've been involved in some heavy stuff before. They must have.
Oh, I'm
sure. Game that looks like this.
It's an amazing looking
Russian
game.
Developer, by the way.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I believe they're a Russian developer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their little write-up says they wanted to create games on par of Doom and Fallout, and just from their company page, and they have a very large team now. It's grown as they've worked on this project. So this is going to be a lot of the greatest games of all time have come out of nowhere. First of all, so I'm not going to torpedo this because it's a new developer, a new studio, but. Like I said, I just think the expectations are really high based on this video, and I hope that doesn't work to their detriment, because it's not their fault for making an amazing looking game. It's just people. I mean, I guess maybe it is a little bit when you're coming out saying you want to be on the par of Doom and Fallout and some of the greatest shooters of all time. So I guess wait and see on this one. It wouldn't be a pre-order for me if people still do that, but I would definitely wait for reviews.
Definitely. I do want to read out a comment, which will lead into our next news topic, some Halo stuff. It's also with the indie stuff. Again, guys, if you guys don't know, we want to hear your favorite indies. We're going to come back and recycle a little bit towards the end of this show and kind of read out your comments, see what you guys said. So if you want anything, please post down below, hit that chat bubble. But yeah, yikes, 8XIII. My favorite indie game would be Halo Infinite. Just wish it was a bit more fleshed out. Not indie, but this also comes into our next topic about Matt Booty's interview with Halo.
Well,
don't know.
Matt Booty
Go
and
ahead.
Phil Spencer were kind of on an apology tour this last week, and Phil Spencer with "It's been too long since they've had the last big first-party exclusive." Matt Booty saying Halo Infinite fell short on post-launch content. There were a lot of acknowledging what we already know. So, yeah, that's a great story to get into.
Yeah, so I mean, they've come out and they said, yeah, I mean, with the post-launch content, I mean, we've talked about this, numerous times before. Halo does have a pretty big winter event coming up. I wouldn't say big, but they do have something new coming up. He even said that they ended up retrenching, kind of going back to basics, doing some leadership changes. So it looks like Halo is kind of going back on the right path. But it's actually refreshing to see that, you have these executives that are coming back and being like, yeah, we messed that up. We know we did. We're sorry, kind of thing. But this is how we're going to make it better. But what do you guys think about it? Just them coming out and kind of being so candid about
Well,
the missteps of Halo.
I mean, and one of the quotes was, as is apparent these days with a game like Halo, shipping the game is just the beginning. There's got to be a plan for content to sustain after that. There's got to be a plan for regular continuing engagement, and we fell short on that. And I think it's very obvious to all of us.
It comes down to leadership. At whatever level that was at, we don't know yet. And I think and I hope that the game turns around, because if you look at the original launch date of Halo Infinite, does this mean that Forge would have came out 2 years later?
It's weird.
Because Infinite was delayed a full year, and we still had to wait a full year for Forge to come out. So their content plan was not correctly aligned.
No,
and hopefully the leadership changes make that better. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
can we contrast this real quick with what we know about Diablo IV right now, where they have public testing right now, and the only thing they're testing is the end game, because they understand that Diablo IV is not going to be Diablo 3. We're moving into games as a service, as much as everybody hates it, which is, it's the new way to play games. It gives them legs, they add content, you pay, you play, that kind of thing. But my point being here is that obviously Blizzard sees how this works, and it just doesn't feel like anybody at 343 really looked at this. They weren't testing endgame stuff. They were just trying to get the game out the door, and it's one of the reasons I kind of have high hopes for Diablo 4, because they're looking at what's important. But yeah, they missed here, and they're acknowledging it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's great because I mean, I think that's such a positive, like I've said before, that now we're going to be seeing maybe a different Halo, especially with the core leadership change. I mean, how many, I guess with how far they've kind of fallen, how long do you give them a break with the new leadership change, things like that? Do you guys think Project Tatanka might kind of boost that Halo? For those that don't know, Project Tatanka is the rumored Halo battle royale. Do you think that's gonna kind of put Halo back on the map? Um, what do you guys think?
I believe that it will, but I think it's going to come down to this being a major shift in development between like adding new maps, adding new seasons. I give them 6 months for them to
6
pick up that
months.
schedules. I think by the mid, like when we coming into E3, either at E3 or just before E3, we get some big news on Halo. Things start increasing in development time. We start getting more maps. We start getting seasons, shorter seasons. More seasons within a year. And then at E3, we announce Project Tachanka, and I say we have no association with Microsoft whatsoever. It's like rooting for your own team when you talk about like the Vikings or
working on
something. You
Halo.
say we. So just
Dallas
before that,
Cowboys,
we don't know
Dem
anything.
boys. Sorry.
And I think that's it. I think they get this going just before E3, and then they drop the Battle Royale game. and that's their big splash for Halo Infinite this E3.
Is it enough though? You know, it's been done to death.
It could be. I think people are very dramatic with Halo. They write it off. I mean, they're just really like quick to judgment. Just like, oh, this game sucks. It's never going to be fun. And oh, they've ruined Halo. And you know, we've seen it with other games. You know, 6 months, kind of like you're saying, a year from now, it could be a totally different experience. And
Yeah.
a lot of people might be coming back. So I've always kind of taken the approach. Well, it's not working for me now. I don't like it. There's not enough content. But I'm not like, boy, bury Halo. That game sucks. I'm just like, man, they made some missteps. I'll let them cook on it, and I'll come back in a few months, or maybe 6 months, or maybe a year. I always think Halo Infinite was designed to last this generation. I do. I think there's going to be single player content to come, and I guess maybe there's a small chance that they've ruined it so much that it just doesn't become worth it to continue developing. But that doesn't seem to be the body language, if you will, that we're getting from Microsoft right now. They seem to be invested in it and want to keep pursuing it.
I know
COD. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say I know COD and Overwatch have just dropped, but I stick to my guns that Halo Infinite multiplayer is some of the best online multiplayer I've played in the last 2 years.
Very clean, very
but
fun.
it's very dipping. Yeah, it's dipping, dip out for me though. I'm not like hardcore with it. Like when I play it, I am hardcore with it for that period of time. But I just dip into these, when they've got these events on, and I sort of make sure I do the events, and then it's a good sort of like just dip in and dip out again for me. I think it's great, especially as a solo player. You know,
And-
I'm not going in teams or anything, or it's just good fun. Really good, solid.
And this
game.
question goes out to you guys and everybody else too in the audience. If you want to come up and ask or answer, if you guys want to post in the comments, are you guys going to jump back into the winter update that's coming out? I think in what, 3 days, 2 or 3 days now.
I will jump into Forge because some of my favorite game modes of all time have been puzzle maps that have been made in the Forge editor.
I like that
I
answer.
look forward to those.
That's great. I'm not going. I'm too busy with Overwatch. I can only have room for one shooter in my rotation, and Call of Duty is also knocking on the back door over there. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to get you, but we'll see how that goes. So
also, one thing before we get to Anonymous Joe, I wanted to answer a question that Moko asked if this is enough, the Battle Royale. I don't think by itself it's enough. Because I think the industry is moving on from battle royales to extraction modes like Escape from Tarkov. I think that's the new big multiplayer thing, especially once Call of Duty's drops, the one that's rumored and basically already announced by this point. I think it comes with increasing the seasonal updates and the content behind those seasonal updates with Forge, with the battle royale. That'll do it. If they don't do all those things, no.
It just seems very late in the day for a game like Halo to go in with a battle royale, like you say. Like it's just been done to death now over the past 5 years, and it's like, I don't know. It seemed like a bit of a shoe-in just to do that. Like it was obvious.
We've seen a lot of big flops try and enter the same market, right? It happens with all the big genres, like the MMOs. When WoW came out, we saw a lot of games come out and fold, trying to copy that successful formula. You know, I think we all have a place in our heart for Halo, so we always hope that they're gonna somehow make it work.
Let's see what they can do. Anonymous Joe, what do you think? Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, I really appreciate you having me here. Quick question. It's kind of the elephant in the room. It's about the Xbox Series S and X. What about Gotham Knights? It's kind of bugging me because I'm a Series S owner. I'm looking to get a Series X soon, probably like in 2 weeks. What do you think about that controversy with Gotham Knights?
Well, I mean,
is it gonna kill the Series S?
No, we kind of discussed this just a bit ago. But can I ask you something? First, your connection's a little shoddy, but I think we can make out what you're saying. Can you tell us what your experience is like playing Gotham on the Series S? Is it a good experience? Is it playable? Or are you just having atrocious frame rates? Like,
so I haven't played Gotham Knights yet, but I'm looking forward to get it on my Series S before I upgrade. So I don't know the frame rates, but I know it's 30 right now, and it's a performance mode to get it to 60. But I'm just wondering if it's going to kill the S or not.
Sure. I misunderstood you a bit, but yeah, go ahead, Mikey.
I was just going to say the controversy is, as we've discussed, is
There you go.
I want to come out and just clarify these two sources that we have. The first is the developer of such games, is I Am Fish, and other physics-based games like that. The second is from a guy who deleted his Twitter account based on the backlash he was getting from the comments he made. This has not been confirmed by anybody else. Nobody's come out to say that the Series S is ruining gaming, other than these two sources, but we have kind of a problem in game media where these are sensational headlines and they get clicks. So people like to pick up on stories like this and they repeat it into truth almost. And then instead of going back to the basis of this, we just hear these things repeated and people take them as fact. And all of a sudden we have a really big problem on misinformation, almost to, so I'm not worried about the Series S being, ruined by Gotham or any other game coming out in the near future, at least.
For me, the proof is I am a Series X owner, but everyone I know or read of who owns a Series S loves the console. Like, nobody says anything bad about it in the sub, in the forums, in my friends who have one. You just don't hear negative stuff from users or owners of the S. I don't know if that's because they own it, like Mikey said. If you've invested in something, you don't criticize it, but.
We see it on the subs, but the people criticizing it seem to be the people that are buying into these rumors, and it's not firsthand because I got an S sitting behind me, I got an X upstairs. I'm able to play on the different Xbox consoles, and there's a one back there too, and see how a game plays from console to console. And I'm telling you right now, the S at 1080 and a lot of times at 4K, I'm having a great time in these games. Overwatch back there, I forget I'm playing on the S most of the time, unless I'm going for 120 upstairs, but. It's a very powerful little console, and we just talked about it being $240 this winter, which is insane.
If the S can do 120 hertz on Call of Duty, it's not the console.
Right. That should end all arguments right there.
There we go. Did that answer your question, Anonymous Joe?
So I have an S, and I have a 120 hertz monitor, and it plays perfectly on any game that I play it on. So I've never had performance issues. I'm not sure what they're coming from with that.
Yeah, it's just one of those stories. Like I said, it's almost been repeated into the truth, and the two sources that we can confirm. So we'll keep following it, though. This isn't a controversy that's going away, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's going to be another dev that's going to come out and say something like that, and it's just I like Foreman said. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
An easy scapegoat, like if your game sucks and you can't get it done, the Series S.
And here's the other thing I want to say: the Xbox Series S, hardware-wise, is actually stronger than the median or average PC gamer charting on Steam.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
Last time I checked, they had I think the average was a 1080. Which the Series S is stronger than a 1080 GPU. That's an old GPU. So PCs are much worse in terms of lowering the performance for games. Like if you need to make a sub
you mean like the average PC?
The average PC is worse than the Series S.
Yeah, and
that
also,
was probably a way better way to say that, and I'm sorry.
No, that's good. And with the Series S too, like the Series S is standardized hardware. When you get into PCs, man, everybody's got different processors, different RAM manufacturers, different RAM clock speeds. With the Series S, it's always the same, so it makes development should be easier. Now, I have people that will argue till they're blue in the face that it's not, but I'm telling you that the Series S is going to be just fine.
And if you're only going off of like GPUs for NVIDIA and just the 2000 series GPUs, you've got to create a game that works on the 1060, the 1070, the 1080, the 1080 Ti, the 3090, and the 3090 Ti. And you're telling me you can't make two versions, one that runs at 30 on the Series S and one that runs at 60 at the Series X, and you blame the Series S? You're wrong.
Go.
There you go.
Mini rant.
Go.
Well, Anonymous Joe, thank you so much for coming up. Let's give him a round of applause right there. Appreciate you coming up. Yeah, great topic to bring up.
All right, have a good day, guys. I'm going to listen now. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you,
You too.
I do want to read a comment that we got just to go back to the Halo and finish that up. Also, I think Mikey is going to like this. for the second comment they made. I don't believe anything. This is from WeDocX. I don't believe anything can bring Halo back. Reason I say this is because they're aiming for a younger generations, not us people that grew up with it, and that's why they did the campaign the way they did. Multiplayer isn't how it used to be, and like one of you said, it was rushed, very rushed. Even with the time they had, I respect the developers, but it's a lot to take in. But I do agree that they need to do something to try and bring it back to the attention. And they did say they will come back for co-op. I know Mikey's been waiting.
Oh God.
Oh
boy.
man.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna. Yeah. This
I
is
was
the
Same
thinking-
developer that tells you they can't do split screen, but then at the same time, some guy accidentally unlocks split screen and it works fine.
And then they lock it off again.
Yeah, that happened.
I was thinking this the other day though, like the campaign. I know you got really into the campaign, didn't you, Jay? You did quite a lot of it. But I was thinking like it is. I do like the old campaign style. You know, Halo 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
That sort of like corridor. That it was co-op, but it was still, well, 3 was, but it was still like that corridor sort of that. I just really loved that Halo.
Oh, I mean,
and this one for me, I know you really loved this one, and the open world, but it kind of threw me a little. I was kind of just a bit, didn't really know.
well,
which
it's
direction
one
to
of
go a lot of the time.
yeah, one of those things I always say about something beloved and classic. If you change it, you're gonna piss someone off. It happens with everything, you know, like Star Wars, your favorite movies, franchises. You don't want to mess with that original stuff too much. So I can see how that would be disconcerting and a turnoff to Halo purists for sure. Some of my fondest early Xbox memories are playing the original Halo and kind of rubber banding, playing it on Legendary with a friend, you know, and somebody would hang back because the other guy would go up there and die, and that way you guys could kind of respawn on each other and progress through it slowly, and that's fun. That was a great time too. So just
The
a
reason I
different
got an
experience.
Xbox, my first OG Xbox, was the reason I bought it. I went to a friend's and he had it, and
Halo,
he came
yeah.
at the pod. Yeah, and he said, "Look at the grass." And I looked down at the grass, and I'm like, "I got to get this.
Yeah,
This
just
is what I want.
amazing.
I want this console."
Oh, that music.
That's why-
Yeah,
That's why I bought it.
it's right up there with Super Mario Brothers as a strong gaming memory to me. And then
Incredible.
Morrowind came not too far after that, which is another big gaming
Yes.
moment. So OG Xbox had some good times.
Well, awesome.
yeah.
You guys want to hit the last or one of the big topics again?
Yeah.
Phil Spencer intends to keep COD on PlayStation as long as there, and this is a quote, as long as there's a PlayStation out there to ship to.
Boy, it seems like
Probably
he has
not-
to.
I mean,
every week he has to reiterate this, right? He's got to be like, yes, we still plan to keep COD on PlayStation.
yeah, and I mean the way he's phrasing it too. I mean, it's a little ominous. I think one of us talked about it earlier, or said something, or mentioned it. You know, as long as there's a PlayStation to ship to, kind of just be. You know, it's kind of like it's a kind of a you don't know if it's one of those little low blow punches or it's a backhanded compliment. You don't know, like, but yeah, and he also says intend. So there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, well, he's saying intend. It means that they can change their mind. It's not about that. There's things called gun jumping laws. And he can't run Xbox, or he can't say that they're going to do stuff on Activision before the acquisition actually finalizes. So he has to say our goals, our intent, we intend to, things like that, just so people
right.
can kind of
Yeah.
get an understanding of it, because he could be like, yes, we're going to put PlayStation, or we're going to put COD on PlayStation forever, and then now that's going to drop this or raise the stock price, might jump this, you know, there's a lot of facets there. So
That's
just wanted to
interesting. I
clear
didn't know
that up.
that.
He is saying intent, things like that. So
Do you think that he's doing? You know, is he saying his intent now? His intention of doing this. Do you think this was the intention all along? Or do you think at this point now they just want the deal to go through?
I tell you what, before all this stuff came to terms, you know, Microsoft bought Minecraft famously and had every opportunity to make that a Microsoft console exclusive, which would have really put some screws down on Sony and Nintendo and all competitors, because it was a big game then. It's still obviously a big game. But what didn't they do? They didn't make it exclusive because Minecraft makes too much gosh dang money. Call of Duty also makes too much gosh dang money to leverage it like that. When they went with Bethesda and Starfield. Yes, Starfield is going to sell gangbusters, but it's not going to make anywhere near as much money as a Call of Duty franchise does.
No.
And so those are the games that they're leveraging their exclusivity on. So I don't think there's any chance that Call of Duty ever goes exclusive as long as it can be sold elsewhere, because why not sell
Yeah.
that game?
And not only
It's-
does it hurt their bottom line, but it hurts the player base. And I think they brought this up through multiple sources before too. They said this is CMA that removing an entire console hurts the game because it hurts the longevity of it. You're taking players away, where crossplay is now so essential to keeping that player base alive. And taking that away and just sucking it out of it removes 1/3 of the player base, which is not what they want. They want to keep the game going. They want people to be able to interact with more people, because that in turn sells more games. It sells more in-game content. The more games you're having, the more fun you're having, the more you sell.
It's a wild
the other-
concept.
The other
And
news.
this-
Sorry.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and that just falls into what Mikey's saying, is because we did have another news story post that it's the fastest selling Call of Duty game ever, and it's made 600 million so far, and a lot of that revenue is from PlayStation. So I
Yeah.
mean, for them to cancel it out, it wouldn't make it would be a horrible business decision, and it would kill the franchise, I think.
Can I ask
were
you
gonna
guys,
say this-
why do you think this one's doing so well? I know last year was kind of a misstep with them. Does this one feel like the first one that's really next gen to you? I haven't even dove in on it, but that's
It's Infinity Ward, isn't it? This one.
Yes,
must go
this
a long
one's
way.
Infinity Ward, and I think the problem, they had Modern Warfare 2019, which ran on its own engine, and then they had Vanguard come out, and also Black Ops, and they didn't run on that engine. They ran on previous iterations of the engine and took away a lot of that flashy tech. And Vanguard was, I mean, if you compare it to even 2019's Call of Duty, it was kind of hideous. And I still played Vanguard, still had like 100 hours in it. It was probably my least favorite in the last 5 years, though. 2022's Modern Warfare just is a splash. It's gorgeous, and those screenshots going around of the campaign got people hyped. The beta was clean and felt, I hate using this word sometimes, pure. It just felt good to play again, whereas Vanguard kind of felt like a messy old game.
It did feel old, and I
so
don't
when
even
you-
play Call of Duty every year, but that's what I felt about it. I played quite a bit of Vanguard.
And
It
so
kind of
when you-
went back to basics.
Right. And when you turn that around and you make a game that looks as good as Modern Warfare and runs as well as it does, people are going to go, finally, it's back, and eat it up.
I've just got some numbers here. The series. So VG24 put it's the best-selling franchise on PlayStation. They're saying at the moment, but they're saying it's sold 425 million units total, and it's only outpaced by Mario, Tetris, and Pokemon.
I mean, it would be real interesting to
So-
see what God of War, like how those two games are going to compare with their launches, because Call of Duty is a perennial top seller, and God of War obviously 10/10s everywhere, and that's going to be a big seller too. So I wonder which one's more popular.
Can you say Mario for me again?
Which one?
Yes.
Mario.
Mario.
Mario. It just
Mario.
sounded so good. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I love
Mario.
the way it was said.
He's
Mario.
So
European, so,
eloquent.
he can do it right. I'll tell you what, I
Super
spent my whole life saying
Mario.
Mario, and
How do you say Mario?
Mario.
Mario.
like car.
Mario. Just sounds, I like it. I mean, this is coming
Yeah.
from a guy that I remember in Call of Duty one time, I called, instead of calling out, oh, he's by the kiosk, I said Koisk. So I shouldn't be talking.
That's my kind of pronunciation right there. I would have known exactly what you were
So-
talking about too. I'd be like, oh yeah, the Koisk.
Oh yeah, and everybody called it that the rest of the time.
Absolutely.
So
Good
We could have
times.
like one of those heavy Boston accents, where it's like, hey, it's Mario, like it's not as eloquent as Mario.
Mario. Super Mario Brothers.
Hey,
it's a Mario.
Oh god, we have
what's the
gone off
matter
the
with
deep
you?
end.
What
I'm
is that?
walking here. I'm walking.
Wait, what's on our
Um,
news list again? Sorry.
425 million units. I mean, it's pushing up on like 500 million units.
What was
sold.
that?
Like just the Call of Duty series. in
Oh
total.
yeah.
Franchise of all time. So it's the best selling franchise of all time, or one of.
Amazing.
Only outpaced by Mario, Tetris, and Pokemon.
Started the same place as Battlefield did, and just kind of a different approach over the years. And Call of Duty, I think, has definitely won the battle with Battlefield. I can remember playing both those games as PC, original versions, 1942 and the original Call of Duty, and I had no idea either of them were going to be still around 20 years later or even longer. So,
But it just shows you, it just backs up the whole Phil Spencer. Why would they pull it? You're just cutting off such revenue, from
Yeah.
just keep making it exclusive.
No.
It makes sense. perfect sense to keep it.
Yeah, the game plan here is still to make money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still ways to and plus they're putting Xbox in front of people. If it's going to be an Xbox published game by some way, and that pops up on the PlayStation screen, and they're like Xbox Studios, that's kind of weird, and just keeping their name out there and spreading their. I think Mikey made a really good point. Like you want to keep that player base intact. You don't want to start chopping it down, because then all of a sudden Call of Duty isn't the biggest shooter anymore. Somebody Battlefield comes in and scoops up all those users, and now they're the biggest shooter. Just like that, it could happen. So lots of reasons to keep Call of Duty multi-platform.
Most definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Is there any topics that you guys want to bring up? We got a couple here that I don't think we talked about.
Have you guys seen the little Warthog, the Power Wheels one? That's
I want one.
rounds.
Did you say is that the one the kids driving? The kids one.
Cute as
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
want
but
to
they've
throw
got
it
the
in
kid
the
dressed
drive.
up as Master Chief. They've got the kid dressed as Master Chief in that epic Master Chief outfit as well.
Yeah, I want to be 8 years old
Unbelievable.
again, and I want that under the Christmas tree, because I would be driving that thing until the battery died. It looks so cool and amazing. Kojima came out and people have been saying, hey, are you going to hook up with a studio again after his kind of fallout with Konami? And he said he's received ridiculously high acquisition offers, but he chooses to stay indie with his games and projects. Shocking no one, because he can make a fortune independently. But the thing about the story is, I wonder who came at him. Was this a Microsoft target? Was this a Sony target? That's the stuff I want to know, and sadly we'll probably never hear the details on. So I thought that was an interesting story, though.
Probably Tencent.
Oh,
Tencent and Embracer probably for sure 100% went after him.
They buy everything, man. So yeah, they're probably always on the list for that. I wanted to bring attention to kind of a community event that we ran. We had a pumpkin carving contest. The guys from Scorn sent us an extra controller, and I didn't want to keep the thing. didn't feel right. We do this as a hobby and a passion. So we decided we created a little contest for it, and we had this really excellent submission from a user from New Mexico. You can look it up on the subreddit. They did the Mask of Merak. Speaking of pronunciations, I probably murdered that, but it's from Skyrim. It was a really cool effort, and I shipped them out their Scorn controller today. So enjoy that if you're listening, and thanks for taking part. I hope we can do a pumpkin carving contest next year and maybe get a few more entries, but that was kind of fun. So
Who was the user again?
oh boy, so it's not a it's KLBX67T12.
There we go.
Yeah, hey, nice.
But a nice little applause.
They were very excited for the controller, and we'll definitely get use out of it. So I was happy to send it to a good home. We always get these comings and goings of Game Pass, and one it didn't make the normal list of games that are leaving, and then the next day they announced that it's going to be gone November 15th, and that game is Subnautica, something that we were talking about in the pregame show. So if you've never played Subnautica, you have 9 days to try it out, and it's not enough time to play and really experience Subnautica for all as it is, unless you're Mikey J. Raymond, who you probably can go through it in 2 days. But I highly recommend, if you're interested in it, now's your time to demo it. You can probably get it on sale too, because all Game Pass games are discounted. And get in there. You have till November 15th, and we just wanted to raise awareness that's going away. That's a very popular game.
That was actually why I did the run through recently, but then I went to buy or play Subnautica Below Zero, and that's already off Game Pass. I'm like, dang it, I missed that one too.
It just left. It just left last month,
Oh,
I think. Yeah, I did it.
Sometimes when these games come off, they're reworking deals, and they come back even after gone for just a little bit. But I don't know. Like I said, I would get in there just in case if it's a game that you always wanted to try, or that you were at least curious about, that kind of thing. So I think that's about it. We missed 2 weeks, and there was all kinds of news. If you're keeping up with us on the community, on the subreddit, it's always there. All the stories are posted, and you can discuss them with other users there. If you just happen to be listening to us on the podcast, or you watch us that way, I think we covered most of the big ones. Is there anything else big? I know Kevin already asked, but that you guys think that we should hit, or you want to cover?
I do think we should let's do eventually, maybe if this is what you're leading to, we should shout out some of our users, some of the community members here that posted about their favorite indie games. We can wrap up with that, unless anybody got any other bigger shows.
No, I would love to hear that, and I'm just going to hammer some real quick headlines before we get into that. Fallout 4 is getting a next-gen version in 2023. I love Fallout 4. I'm excited for any kind of upgrade or any kind of continued support. We didn't get to talk about this last week, but Age of Empires is coming to consoles. That's a huge deal.
Massive.
It's making Xbox the console for real-time strategy, which isn't a big niche, but that with Halo Wars and some of the other games that they've supported over the years, I've cut my online teeth on real-time strategy, so I'm always a big fan of that genre. Persona
It's taking
5,
Age of Empires to a new age.
yeah, you're right. And Age of Empires is a great real-time strategy. If you never played it, it's fantastic. So nice. Persona 5 is
Sorry, bad jokes.
selling like gangbusters. That's it. So let's get into those indie game takes.
Yeah, we got a few here. All right. So in our original thread, or in the new thread here, we have Leon and CWB said Katana Zero. That's the only one I can make out. I'm sorry, I do not speak Brazilian, it looks like. But Katana Zero, I could read that. I played it. Such a great game. Have you guys played that?
No.
Yeah, it was on
No,
Game
not.
Pass for a little while. It was a little side scroller, I believe.
It's already gone. I was going to say not yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
no,
already
for
gone.
some reason I am familiar with it, but I don't remember much about it. I think it is because it rolled through the Game
So
Pass area there.
So the story. So it says I didn't understand anything about the story of Katana Zero, but I thought it was tough to cut off several heads and dismember bodies. It was a delight.
Yeah. It was a really cool game. I actually really enjoyed it.
I thought you were talking about Kentucky Route Zero for a second. Oh, man. Katana Zero, totally different game.
Yeah, those
That's like
are,
a horse game, isn't it, or something like that?
No, Kentucky
Yeah.
Road Zero is like a indie kind of story narrative kind of game, kind of pixel art. Did you play that one?
No, not yet. I have it downloaded because I was going to play through that next. I'm like, wait, that's not the same game.
No, it's definitely not the same game.
We have Alarmed Basil that said Graveyard Keeper. That was also a pretty fun one, kind of in the same vein of Stardew Valley. It was actually, I think it started as game preview, if I'm not mistaken, when it first came to Game Pass, or when it first came to Xbox. I think now it's on Game Pass, I want to say. I'm not too sure. But that was a pretty fun. You pretty much run a graveyard. I don't know if any of you guys played that.
Oh, I just realized what game that is. Yeah, I've played that one a bit. That's a good time.
I was gonna say that should be right up your alley, I think.
Right, exactly. Yep. What overhead mining stuff, inventory? Yeah, I'm in.
Frostpunk from Hard Hookah, HUCA, said playing Frostpunk at the moment, loving it. That was actually a pretty fun. I couldn't really get into it, but I love that dystopian style kind of, I guess, simulation.
What is
base
that
management.
one? It's like a city builder kind of thing where you're building kind of like a group and, like you said, dystopian type setting, kind of a strategy game, right?
Pretty much, yeah. You got to like build a base and keep your people alive. You can make like crazy hard choices to enact laws and stuff like that. It was a beautiful game too. I think Jez actually said he loved it when it first came out. He gave it rave reviews.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fun. Did any of you guys, Mikey or Moko, play it?
I was going to say, I'm
No.
looking forward to the sequel coming out in 2024.
There we go.
It's hanging around on my hard drive, and I might have purchased it if it's no longer on Game Pass, and just because that also kind of fits into my mold. I wanted to share one from Hey Blinken, who said they just discovered Dismantle during the last sale, and OMG, it's so much fun. It's a top-down zombie slaying survival game by 10 Tons, which is... again, we can talk about the indie requirements, but nothing is too complex, but it has just the right amount of grind to keep you pushing forward. You can destroy just about everything you see in the world. I love that. I want to explode all trash cans. If you're into post-apocalypse zombie slaying with some light crafting and building, then definitely check this gem out. And that game, again, was Dismantle with a Y, so kind of like dystopian and mantle. That makes sense if it's a zombie game. So I've never even heard of that one, but it has several upvotes. No, none of you guys either, apparently.
No, I did not. But it sounds amazing. Now I'm definitely going to look into it.
Sure. So this was fun, and this is something that we're going to try to do. Is with the shows moving up, is kind of having a topic for the night, so we can get you guys to weigh in throughout the week and come in weigh in live if you're here with us. So I've enjoyed really reading about some games like we were just talking about that we've never heard of. People have brought some stuff to my attention, and I'm going to share one more here. This one is from Flaminxor. One of the most memorable games in recent years is Hyper Light Drifter. I read about this game before launch and liked the amount of thought and life experiences the developer and writer put into the story and concept. The game also released around the same time I encountered health problems, and I will never forget it for that reason. And this comment kind of stuck with me because have you guys ever like just had kind of a rough run in life and like turned to a game to kind of get you through it?
Yeah.
I that's an experience that really speaks to me. Went through a divorce several years ago, and Stardew Valley was that game for me. I played it for 3 months. Well, my whole life I just thought it was falling apart, man. But I could always go back there, and that really like picked me up and made me feel like it gave me a reason to. It made me feel like I was progressing in something when real life was kind of a mess for me. So that comment really hit home for me.
I actually got to interview the creator of that game for our Party Chat podcast back on Xbox One with Rest His Soul Falcon Box.
Oh yeah, Hyperlight Drifter you're talking about?
Yep.
Oh,
it
nice.
was me and Falcon Box interviewed him, and he was emotionally hit by a lot of the like you could tell it meant a lot to him.
Oh,
so that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool story.
There was a post on the sub this week. If you search for, well, I don't know if this is an indie, but this is one of the things where I've read a post by a user, and I was like, I think I posted it to you guys in the Discord. He put Signalis. Signalis is an absolute masterpiece. Right, that if you search for that, you'll find it. And he wrote this post, and by the time I'd finished reading it, I was like, I need to play this game. I have to play this
right
game.
Like he should be writing the story on the back of the box if they still have boxes.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, how do I not even? I don't. But I've looked it up. It's on Switch. It's just a game that's passed me by, but it ticks every box for me. Everything that he's saying, I'm just like, I have to play this game. So it's worth looking up his post. If you search for Signalis, is an absolute masterpiece. You'll find it.
Nice.
I really enjoy the user reviews that we've been getting. Go ahead.
Gaming for Life kind of brings up a quick topic for us to kind of hit on. Said favorite indie game is WrestleQuest, even though it hasn't came out yet. I know it'll be my favorite. Are there any games that you guys are looking forward to, indie games? Mine was, with the quality that came out, Gotham Knights. Huh? No? Anybody?
No, I'm there. I can't give you the sound effect, but I'm with you.
My game that I'm
there we go.
My game that I'm hopeful for, and it's currently PC only, is actually Dead Matter. Okay. If anyone's heard of that, it's a zombie survival game, open world. They did a closed beta, and I'm one of those people that's testing the game, and it's been rough so far, but they've gone through a lot of development challenges, and they've revamped a lot of stuff. So hopefully that comes out. But that's the game I'm looking forward to.
Nice. I've pulled up some video for WrestleQuest, and this is the game that I thought it was. They have a lot of. It does look like stupid fun, and they have a lot of characters that are not old school wrestlers, but they sure do look a lot like them. So you have like the Road Warriors and like 80s and 90s wrestling superstars and icons, and yeah, that looks like a lot of fun. So I guess I'm looking forward to that one too.
I know this is port begging, but what's the chances of us getting Stray on Xbox?
Pretty good.
Isn't that a timed exclusive?
Yeah, it's a timed Annapurna, I think it is. I can't ever pronounce it.
I know you played it on Kevin PlayStation.
Yeah, Annapurna. They're usually pretty console friendly. They don't really stick to just one. I think most of the stuff they have is multi-plat.
Do they like money? Yeah. That's how I always look at this thing. So it just depends who's giving them the chance to get more money. But I would expect to see it unless Sony ties their paws. Oh God!
I think the only time I've seen my
Sorry, come on.
I was gonna say I think the only time I've ever seen my wife cry about a game was when she saw Stray was for PlayStation only.
Oh,
but then I told her it was on Steam, and she went, "Oh, thank goodness."
It's not even sad about the game or a plot point. It's just sad that she might not be able to play it. So that's awesome. I'm a cat lover, so I get it.
And the Xbox controller already works for it, because if you have it on Steam, it works beautifully. Actually, all I did was put it up, read all my inputs already, and it was just good to go. I didn't have to reconfigure anything. So more than likely, it's probably already done. They're just waiting for the exclusivity to end.
Right. Good.
Nice. So I think
awesome.
I think we've done it.
Another Xbox Talks in the book. I mean, oh my God, this is 40 already.
Hey, we're getting old.
Pretty soon we're going to be rounding 50. So that's how many do you think we have to do until we can get Phil Spencer on?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Xbox Era got to like 100. I think that's shooting way high. I think we might be able to get like, I don't know, like Evil Master Chief on or something. But I don't.
I say we shoot for 75th show.
75th. We do have maybe some things as the community itself gets closer to 1.5 million users, which is just amazing and astounding. There's a lot of Xbox fans out there. have some surprises lined up that go along with that, and we'd like to bring them in on the podcast too. So maybe some giveaways and some cool stuff like that. So kind of stay tuned for news on that, because we are getting pretty close to that milestone.
Yeah, and then if there's any games you guys want covered, if there's any developers that you guys really like or new games coming out, let us know. Reach out to us in mod mail. We read every single mod mail. Let us know. I mean, maybe we can kind of reach out to them and be like, hey, our community loves you guys. Want to come on and talk with us, and you guys can get a kind of a in-depth a view, a nice interview that's for you guys, specifically for the Xbox Series X community. Let us know if there's any developers, like I said, you guys want, or any games you want covered. We will try and move mountains for you.
Yeah, and people are pretty receptive about coming to talk to you all, which, like you said, if there's somebody you want us to reach out to on your behalf, we are more than happy to. So it's one of the cool things about having a community this large and sharing it with all of you. So should we go around the horn here and just kind of look ahead to the week coming and what everyone's going to be up to?
Yeah, I'll start off. More Overwatch 2 and Persona 5. Pretty much that has me locked down. I've been really wanting to get to Plague Tale, but just I played Persona like 3 times already, and just every time I start, I just can't not finish. So I just have to keep playing it, even though I already know everything that happens. So it's just such a fun, just really great game to play over and over again. And then maybe tonight, I don't know if you guys, Foreman and I kind of talked about where I reached out to him and started pinging him like crazy on Discord about jumping into a party chat. So if you guys want, maybe we can get some Overwatch 2 games in tonight.
Same for users too. If you can look up our gamer tags, and we'll pull you in and play some games with you, because that's why we're all here in the first place, is to enjoy these games. So and also thanks, Kevin. You're the one that got me hooked on Overwatch, and didn't think it would happen, but here I am.
Anytime, I will gladly push addictive games.
Yes, please share your addictions with me.
Mikey, what are you looking for? Or actually, Jay, what are you looking forward to? Sorry.
Sure. No, I'm going to jump on Overwatch tonight. Still been kind of playing through Terraria. You know, people are probably sick of me talking about it. I've never actually beaten the final boss in the game. I'm on a progress run to do that. So that's it for the week. I will get one achievement maybe when I do that. So I can't keep up with the achievement.
Is that
races.
A shot at us?
No, I just...
It definitely felt like a backhanded compliment. Like,
it's like, sorry, I have a life.
No, it's quite the opposite. Sorry, I keep playing these games with no end, and I end up like missing so many quality titles because I get so invested in them. So it's more of a shot at myself. But
Jay said he still gets excited when an achievement pops.
I do. Like when I see an achievement pop up, that's still like that's a big deal to me, because it
you
usually
feel
only
like
happens a few times a week.
I'm like, 50 gamer score, that's it?
No, I'm just like, God dang, I haven't got an achievement in this game in like 2.5 years. That's amazing. What the hell did I just do?
I'm gonna download Persona 5. Everyone's raving about it.
Nice.
I'm gonna get on that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I started it.
The next time we speak, I'm gonna hit 500k. And I've got like 6,500 to get to 500. So I might do that and then retire.
Then retire? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just delete all achievements.
I thought that when I got to 400, though, and I actually hit 400, and it was just like I didn't feel anything. I just needed to carry on. I was like, so we'll see what happens.
That's terrific.
So I felt something when I hit 200, and then I hit 300, and I was like,
nah.
500 is my next goal too.
Yeah, I feel like 500 is such a realm. Like it's like driving a car. 100's good. Anything between 2 and 5 is not good, but you get to 5, you're just like, dang, now that's really something. So
I was gonna say it's like more like age, like you hit like 21 and you're like, yes, I can drink, and then you hit 25 and you're like, yeah, I can rent a car, and then after that you're just kind of like, it's 30.
No, my birthdays are I don't even count them anymore, man. So we'll all be older next week though when we join you right back here for another episode of Xbox Talks. Thanks for everybody that came and joined us live tonight. Thanks to all you guys for joining us up here and talking about games, and had some great guests and some great indie takes, and I can't wait to do it all again next week.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate everybody coming in. Oh, Mikey actually was skipped. He just sent us.
This is like our new stick. We do this every week.
I thought he did get skipped. I was like, maybe because I got sidetracked by my phone for a second because I got like a text. I wanted to make sure it wasn't like my parents or anything like that asking me for help or something. But yeah, no. And then I was like, I think he did answer.
I just don't know if it's an ongoing joke that I'm not part of.
No,
because you went, Mikey, wait, no, Jay. And then he closed out the show, and I'm like, okay, guys, thanks. All I'm gonna say is I'm just gonna work on cleaning up games. because I have a lot of games that I want to tie up the knot on. Want to play some Grounded with my wife. Alien Isolation and Frostpunk. Now that I just discovered it's actually on Game Pass for PC. I didn't know it was there.
I'm
That's
excited to hear
Signalis.
your review on that.
The Signalis that I'd sort of mentioned it's on Game Pass. I'm gonna.
There's another
That's
one.
actually already downloaded.
Yeah.
While we were talking, I downloaded that too, but we'll see if I get to it. It's a lot of games.
It is. It is. Too many games.
There's a lot of games out there.
All right. So did
Cool,
we cover
guys.
Mikey? Are we good with Mikey? Are you good with that, Mikey?
Yes, now you can leave.
Everybody have a
Awesome,
wonderful
guys.
night.
Yeah, everybody have an
Adios.
awesome night. Hopefully we'll see you on some Overwatch too. Happy
Sure, guys.
gaming,
Yeah,
y'all.
I'll be on. Cheers, all.
Bye.
Bye.